Asking a woman for intimacy is like begging a flame to warm you after it's already gone out. The very act of asking puts you in the position of the needy one, the one who's waiting, the one who's pleading. And a woman might give you her body, but never her desire if she feels you're begging for it. Want to know why she says no again and again, even when you're convinced you've done everything right? It's because you don't understand what's happening in her mind when you ask for what you should be triggering. And if you're not triggering it, she sees you as an emotional companion, not a man she desires. Today, I'm going to show you the 9 psychological keys no one's ever told you about. From how the way you speak kills her fire, to the final trick, the most powerful, the darkest one, the exact moment you have to walk away, even if everything in you wants to stay. I'm Celia, psychologist woman, and the only one who's going to tell you what they'll never dare to admit. Stay until the end, because after this video, you'll never ask for intimacy again. You'll make her want to give it to you. Be honest with yourself. Have you ever felt more like a man for daring to ask for intimacy, only to end up feeling less desired? As if, by seeking it openly, she saw you with less fire, less strength, less magnetism. And do you know why that happens? Because for a woman, desire doesn't come from fairness. It comes from tension, from mystery, from that perfect contradiction between closeness and dominance. Today, we're diving into the first point of this video. The worst thing you can do is ask for it. Asking a woman for intimacy is like walking into a room of seduction with your soul exposed and expecting her to get excited by your honesty. But a woman doesn't get turned on by what's fair. She gets turned on by what transcends her, by what she can't control. When you say, "I want to be with you," what she hears isn't your desire, it's your need. And that, my dear, doesn't spark anything. It puts the fire out, because feminine desire doesn't respond to requests. It responds to leadership, to the man who doesn't need to ask, because his presence already says everything his mouth doesn't. Picture this. She's sitting on the couch, you're beside her. You've been sweet, you've been thoughtful, you've been respectful. And then, heart-pounding, you ask, "Can I kiss you?" In your head, it sounds brave. In hers, it sounds like a request, like doubt, like a lack of edge. Do you know what a woman does when you ask that question? She evaluates. And when a woman starts evaluating, she stops desiring. Because desire doesn't come from logic. It comes from the impulse you just killed with your need for certainty. This doesn't mean you should be aggressive. It means you need to learn how to create the right atmosphere, not ask for the outcome. It's like lighting a candle and then blowing on it to check if it's still lit. You do it out of insecurity and end up extinguishing what you wanted most to burn. The man who asks loses, not because he's weak, but because he shows he needs validation to act. And a true man doesn't act for approval. He acts because he knows his energy, his gaze, his silence are pure seduction. Intimacy is not something you ask for. It's something you create. You provoke. You let it happen like an inevitable consequence, not a negotiated reward. If you've been asking for what you should have been generating, this is the moment to break that pattern. Because every time you beg, you take one step further from what you could actually have. Don't ask if she wants it. Make her want it. Don't say, "Is this okay?" Say with your presence, "This is what's about to happen." And watch how everything changes. Because female desire isn't sparked by sweet words, but by firm decisions, and you're here to remember that. If asking for intimacy already puts you at a disadvantage, not understanding her hidden language is what buries you completely. Because a woman may never say, "I want you to touch me," but her body says it all, if you know how to read it. It's not enough to stop begging. You have to learn to observe, because female desire is not linear. It doesn't show up like yours. It's not obvious, not constant, not verbal. It's symbolic. It's suggested. It's an art, and if you don't master it, you become a blind man in a dance that could have been yours. We've now reached the second key point of this video, the hidden language of female desire. Most grown men were raised in environments where they were taught to wait for clear signals, to act only when everything is safe. But female desire doesn't shout, it whispers. And those whispers get lost on the man who keeps asking for certainty. A woman who wants you won't always say it, but she'll show it in the spark in her eyes when you walk in the subtle way she leans her body toward yours, in the way she plays with her hair while she listens to you. If you're distracted, anxious to do the right thing, you'll miss all of that, and the connection dies before it even begins. From a psychological standpoint, this has a clear explanation. Female desire is tied to the unconscious, not to logic. She can love you deeply and not desire you. She can be mad at you and want you more than ever. Because desire, for her, doesn't come from what you do. It comes from what you stir in her, from how she feels around you without you needing to explain it. And if you don't get that, you act from your mind, while she's waiting for you to act from your energy, from your presence. Stoicism says it too. Don't react to what you see. Discern what's behind it. A man who has trained his perception doesn't need to hear a confession to know a woman wants him. He feels it. He senses it. Because he's not looking for proof. He's looking for signs. And the signs are there, but not for the man who moves like a boy asking for permission. They're for the man who moves like someone who understands the game. This point is crucial, because you can be next to a woman who's ready to give herself to you, but if you don't read her hidden language, you make her feel clumsy, you cool her down, you confuse her, and then she pulls back, not because she doesn't want you, but because you didn't catch the moment. And once that moment is gone, it doesn't come back. Just stopping the begging isn't enough. You have to start reading, feeling, anticipating, because a woman lights up when she feels that you're tuned in to what she doesn't dare to say. And that, my dear, isn't something you learn from books. It's something you learn in silence, in presence, in cultivated masculine intuition. If you don't understand her language, she's not going to explain it. She'll just turn off. She'll say she's tired, that it's not the right time, that she doesn't know what's wrong, and you'll be left thinking you did something wrong, when in reality, you just did something too late. Because female desire doesn't respond to questions, it responds to connection. And if you lose that, everything else is just decoration. Understanding the hidden language of female desire is progress. But if you don't know how to activate it from her unconscious, you'll remain a passive observer of an attraction that never becomes real. The next step is crucial, because without it, you'll stay stuck in the same place, waiting for signs, confused, frustrated. We've reached the third point of this video, and this is where things start to shift. We're talking about reverse psychology applied to desire. This isn't about manipulating her with malice. It's about speaking to the place where her true desire lives, her unconscious, childlike, wild side, the one that doesn't respond to logic, but to mystery. Reverse psychology works because it gives her the illusion of control while you're guiding the scene from another level. You don't say, "I want to be with you." You say, "Sometimes I feel like things between us would get too intense physically. Maybe it's better not to." Not because you mean it, but because by saying it, you're planting a seed she won't be able to ignore. You're introducing the idea of desire as something risky, as a fire that might get out of control. And when a woman senses that, she doesn't pull away. She gets curious. She opens up. She starts imagining. And once she's imagining, you no longer have to make the move. She'll start seeking it. Picture this. You're with her, talking. There's tension, but nothing has happened yet. And you say, calmly, looking her in the eyes, "Part of me would rather not cross certain lines with you, because I know it'd be hard to go back." What you've done there isn't reject her. It's anticipate desire without expressing it directly. It's teasing her through suggestion. It's activating her symbolic mind, the one that fills in the blanks with her own fantasies. And that, my friend, is the most fertile ground for female desire, the one she builds in her own head. Desire isn't forced, it's hinted at, it's suggested, it's left dangling like a silk thread she can choose to follow. And trust me, she'll want to, because no woman desires what's imposed. She desires what feels dangerous, but contained, what she could lose, but not completely. That's where reverse psychology comes in. you say no, while your presence says yes, but only when you ask for it. And when she asks, it's no longer a concession. It's a choice, a surrender. And that kind of surrender isn't easily forgotten. This isn't about cheap games, it's about applied emotional intelligence, about understanding that a woman needs to feel like she's choosing, even when you've already chosen. Because female desire doesn't respond to commands, it responds to symbols. And if you learn to use your words like a double-edged sword, you can turn any conversation into a field of erotic tension without ever laying a finger on her. Before we move on, if this video is already making you see things differently, please subscribe and hit like. Leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, and write just one phrase. I don't ask anymore. I provoke. There are still much more powerful strategies ahead, and the last one will be the most decisive, because what makes the real difference won't be what you say, but what you do when she starts to want you. That's where most men mess it all up, and where you're going to learn how to lead. Once you understand how to spark her desire through suggestion instead of asking, the next natural impulse is to go in with a direct statement. A kind of leap into the void, where you believe that now that you're in control, she should respond with surrender. But this is where most men fall, because they take that final step like it's a formula. And with women, formulas break. This brings us to the fourth point of this video, why being direct doesn't work and when it does. And this, my dear, is the moment that decides whether she respects you or emotionally writes you off. Being direct might seem like a sign of confidence, but in the realm of female desire, it's often just a confession of anxiety. It's the cry of a man who can't handle uncertainty and needs to force a resolution. I like you. I want to be with you. I'd love for something to happen, phrases that sound right, but in reality say, I can't take this tension anymore. I need to know if you choose me or not. And to her, that's not desire. That's pressure. It's need, poorly disguised. It's the desperation of a man who doesn't know how to hold the mystery. This mistake is destructive because it interrupts the natural flow of female desire. She needs space to fantasize, to play with the idea in her mind, to explore her feelings without you naming them. When you put words on the table too soon, you break the spell. You take away the uncertainty, and with it, the desire. Because a woman doesn't long for what's obvious. She longs for what she can't quite control, and if you hand her premature certainty, there's nothing left for her to chase. The mental trap here is thinking that emotional clarity equals attraction, but it doesn't. Attraction, at its core, is ambiguous. It's full of mixed signals, intense silences, and unfulfilled touches. Being direct does work, yes, but not at the beginning. It works when you've built enough tension, when she's already on the edge of saying it before you do. That's when you can speak it. Because at that point, your clarity isn't anxiety, it's leadership. It's the voice of someone who already knew what was coming and is simply confirming it. If you confuse being direct with being upfront from the start, you lose power. Because the real power in seduction isn't in transparency, it's in presence, in knowing she already feels it, even if you don't say a word, in holding the gaze, the silence, the pause, without needing to declare your intent. And when she's lit up enough, then yes, that's when you speak, not to persuade, to affirm what's already happening. Learning when to be direct is one of the subtlest skills a man can develop, because it's not about lying or playing games, it's about respecting her rhythm, and understanding that often, speaking too soon is like opening a flower with your fingers. You can do it, but you kill it in the process, and a woman who felt pressured will never truly give herself. She'll only perform, pretend, and then pull away. So the next time you feel that urge to declare what you want, pause, breathe, observe, because if you can hold that fire without speaking, you're already leading. And the man who leads doesn't need to ask. He simply shows up and everything else follows. We're getting to the core of the issue, because you might have stopped asking, you might have learned how to read her, even how to trigger her desire through reverse psychology. But if you don't fix this, everything else falls apart. We've now reached the fifth point of this video, The trick of emotional investment. And this is where I tell you something no one else has. She owes you something. And I'm not talking about the past, or favors, or promises. I'm talking about an emotional debt you created and haven't dared to collect. Every time you gave more than you received. Every time you were understanding while she was distant. Every time you compromised just to keep her around. She felt like she could take more without giving anything in return. That's how imbalanced emotional investment is born. And you, with good intentions, afraid of losing her, desperate to make it work, gave so much that now you don't know how to stop. You became the emotional provider for a woman who no longer admires you. And that is the beginning of the end. The problem is, you confused giving with deserving. And now you're wondering why, after everything you did, she still won't give herself to you. The answer is brutal, because she doesn't value it. And she doesn't value it because you never showed her that your devotion had an emotional price. That it wasn't free, that you too need to feel chosen, not just useful. She'll never say it, but she feels it. And if she senses that you don't value yourself, she won't value you either. That's the root of the frustration so many grown men carry. They believed that more effort would bring more desire. But it didn't. It brought dependency. And dependency isn't respected. It's used. Can it be reversed? Yes, but not with more sacrifice. It's reversed when you change the direction of the debt. When, instead of giving more, you make her feel like she's the one who needs to win back your attention, your gaze, your desire. And that doesn't happen by begging. It happens by pulling back your energy. Not as punishment, as dignity, as a man who recognizes his value and stops giving it away for free. The mindset you need is this: everything I gave was real, but it wasn't reciprocated, and from now on I only give where I'm chosen. You don't need to say it out loud, but your attitude should say everything. If she pulls away, you don't chase. If she goes cold, you stay calm. If she hesitates, you decide. Because the man who lives waiting for a woman's reaction becomes a shadow. And you weren't born to be a shadow. You were born to be presence. This isn't a magic fix, it's an inner transformation. The shift from being a man who gives to please to one who chooses where to give. And when you do that, something changes in her eyes. Because for the first time, she senses that you're no longer emotionally available without conditions. And that, my friend, that is irresistible. Because she can live without a man who's always giving. But without a strong man, she can't. She doesn't know how. And deep down, she doesn't want to. If you've understood that it's not about giving more, but about pulling back your energy wisely, you're already starting to reclaim your center. But there's still one door most men are afraid to open, the one that leads to her wild instinct. Because as long as you keep treating her like she's fragile, rational, predictable, you'll keep getting the same: lukewarm tenderness, kisses with no fire, spiritual-sounding excuses. And real desire, the kind that shakes her, that transforms her, will stay asleep. That's why we've now arrived at the 6th point of this video: how to awaken her wild side, without touching her. I want you to picture this: you're face to face with her. No physical contact yet, just eyes, just breathing. But you're not nervous, you're not waiting for a sign, you're leading, with your energy, your low voice, your long pauses, your way of naming the things no one else dares to say. You don't need to touch her to turn her on, because you're already doing it with the way you fill the space. And she, even if she doesn't say it, she feels it. She feels that you're different, that you don't need her body to dominate the room, that you could possess her without lifting a finger. That's the key, to understand that every woman has a wild side, not reckless, wild. A part of her that modern life taught her to hide, that society told her she had to repress. But you, if you learn how to touch that part of her with your masculine presence, without needing to touch her skin, you wake it up. And when you wake it up, she no longer sees you as a partner. She sees you as a risk, as a man who can take her to a place she won't come back from the same. And that place isn't physical. It's energetic, it's mental, it's symbolic. Never forget, A woman can get turned on faster by a look than by a touch, but not just any look. A steady gaze, free of anxiety. A gaze that doesn't beg, doesn't explain itself. A gaze that says, without a word, I see what you're capable of becoming, and I'm ready to hold it. Because when she feels that you can hold her fire, she lets go, not out of fear, out of hunger, out of respect, out of admiration. And that kind of surrender doesn't come from flowers. It comes from inner strength. And what happens when you don't do this? When you stay trapped in the pattern of niceness, of obedient sweetness, of I'm here for whatever you need? What happens is exactly what you already know. She loves you, but she doesn't want you. She picks you as a safe place, but not as her fire. She treats you with care, but dreams of someone else, because her wild side is still asleep, and you never woke it up. The good news is you can, but not with canned lines or shallow tactics. You do it when you become the man who's not afraid of her intensity, who doesn't flinch at her darkness, who doesn't run when she lights up, but stands there, balances her, draws her out, and then, when you least expect it, she comes closer, not to please you, to feel alive, to give herself to the man who truly saw her, all of her, not just as a mother, a friend, a partner, but as a woman, and not just any woman, one who can't pretend she doesn't want you anymore. If you've understood how to awaken her wild side without even touching her, you're already operating on a level most men never reach. Because now you know that desire can't be forced, it has to be triggered, that it's not about doing more, it's about being more. But even with all this insight, there's one final mistake that can ruin everything. A gesture, a decision, a reaction that erases all the built-up tension and drops you right back into the role of the available, obedient, lukewarm man. That's why we've now reached the 7th point of this video, the exact moment you need to walk away. This is the hardest part, because when she starts responding, when you see something awakening in her eyes, the natural instinct is to stay. Stay and wait. Stay to see what else might happen. But that impulse, that staying, is what kills the fire. Because feminine desire doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in controlled absence, in the space you create when you leave at just the right moment. Not when she asks, not when everything's already been said, but right when she starts to feel. That's where most men fail. Walking away isn't punishment. It's mastery. It's leaving her with a question unanswered. A feeling in her body she can't resolve on her own. It's showing her that you don't need to close the scene to feel like a man, that you can leave her turned on and go on with your life. And that, to a woman, is addictive, because she's not used to it. Most men stay, soften, offer themselves, but not you. You disappear when she most wants you to stay, and that changes everything. Think about it. How many times have you ruined a perfect connection by saying too much, touching too much, waiting too long for a clearer signal? That mistake, that unconscious staying, is what made you go from being desired to being predictable company. And a woman doesn't burn for what's predictable. She burns for what she can't control, for what slips away right when she starts to crave it. The exact moment to walk away is when you feel she's already on the edge. Don't cross it. Don't close the scene. Leave it open. Let her cross it on her own. Let her ask. Let her chase. Because when a woman steps forward from desire, not from pressure, not from obligation, not from logic, her surrender is complete. But if you cross too soon, if you take that moment from her, you break it, and she pulls back, because she feels you couldn't hold the tension, that you had to resolve it, and that, again, is need. It's weakness. It's the end. This is where many men lose a battle they'd already won, because they don't understand that desire isn't meant to be consumed. It's meant to burn, to stretch, to be fed with brief absences, charged silences, fleeting presence. The man who stays becomes forgettable. The man who walks away at the right moment becomes unforgettable. You decide which side you're on. No excuses. You know now. You've seen what works. You understand what destroys it. Now it's your turn to choose. You can keep being the man who asks, who begs, who insists, or you can become the one who shows up, stirs, and walks away. And when she comes looking for you, it won't be out of need. It will be out of desire. And that desire, when sparked by a man who knows how to walk away, doesn't stop. It turns into obsession, into surrender, into respect. If you've learned how to walk away at the exact right moment, you've already taken a step most men never do. Because it takes composure, mastery, and vision. But if that withdrawal isn't backed by a solid foundation, it turns into an empty tactic, a trick that loses power, a game you can't sustain. That's why we've arrived at the 8th point of this video, how to stop asking for intimacy and make her offer it. This is the full shift. It's not just about holding back the impulse. It's about building a new masculine center of gravity, one where you are the source of desire, not the recipient of emotional leftovers. Here's the first thing you need to understand. Real desire isn't triggered by lack. It's triggered by an overflow of presence. When you're full of purpose, energy, direction, a woman feels it. She doesn't need a reason to be drawn to you. It's instinctive, like metal to a magnet. But if your life revolves around getting female approval, then everything you do, from your gaze to your silence, smells like need, and need kills the spark. Want her to offer you intimacy? Then stop needing it. And that's not just a catchy phrase. It's a daily practice. Wake up every morning with one mission: build yourself. Not to impress, not to seduce, but so that when she looks at you, she doesn't see a man waiting. She sees a man becoming, one who doesn't pause for a reaction, who doesn't adjust his energy to her mood, who doesn't beg for touch, because he's already complete. And that kind of man, that's the one who generates true desire. You can start today. You don't need more theory. You just need to make decisions. Stop being the first to text. Stop reaching for physical closeness when she's emotionally distant. Stop measuring your worth by her response, and start building a life so rich, so focused, so full of purpose, that any woman who enters it feels she has to earn her place, not the other way around. Don't ask for it, make her feel it, don't say it, live it. Because desire doesn't come from words, it comes from impact, from contrast, from the brutal difference between a man who begs and a man who provokes without asking. That's who you are, if you allow yourself to be. But if you fall back into the pattern, if you start justifying, insisting, waiting, you'll go right back to being the useful, sweet, available man and forever overlooked. The change is in your energy, not her reactions. It's in your direction, not her decisions. She'll offer you intimacy when her instinct pulls her toward you. And that instinct is only triggered by a solid, unshakable, unforgettable, masculine presence. If you don't have it yet, start building it. Because there's nothing more seductive to a woman than a man who no longer needs her. If you've already understood that intimacy isn't something you ask for, it's something you provoke, then you've probably also felt the internal resistance. That little voice that shows up when you try to change, the one that says it's not the right time, that you won't be able to do it, that it's too late. That voice has kept you emotionally tamed for years. That's why the 9th point of this video is the rawest and most necessary of all. The exact moment you need to walk away. Not from a woman, from your soft version, from your people-pleasing persona, from that conditioned reflection that seeks approval instead of respect. This is where the subtlest self-deceptions show up. Not all women are like that. She's not like the others. I just need to talk it out, explain how I feel. False. All of that is a polished way of handing over your power, again. Because the problem isn't her. The problem is that you still haven't changed how you show up in desire. You still believe that if you just communicate better, if you're more empathetic, if you give just one more piece of yourself, you'll finally get what you've been chasing for years. But you won't, because it's not about saying more, it's about becoming more. Another classic excuse: I can't walk away, I'm afraid of losing her. That phrase defines your prison. How could a woman desire a man who reeks of fear of loss? Female desire feeds on risk, on tension, on the sense that you might leave if she doesn't respond. If you never represent a risk, She'll never feel urgency to keep you, because she knows that no matter what happens, you'll still be there. And the one who's always there stops being attractive. He becomes background noise. You'll also tell yourself, I don't know where to start. But that's not true either. You do know. You start with yourself, with your boundaries, with your energy, by not texting her when you're anxious, by stopping the approval chase, by looking in the mirror and asking, is this man I am right now the kind of man she wouldn't dare to lose? If the answer is no, don't look outward. Start earning your own respect from within. Because you can't ask for fire if what you radiate is need. You can't demand intimacy if your presence transmits emptiness. This is the point where many men drop out, where they crawl back to what's familiar, where they cling to emotional comfort, to better times will come. No, they won't come. Change doesn't come. Change is provoked. It's ripped out. It's imposed. Not on the outside, from within. And if you're not capable of breaking your own excuses, you'll keep being the same man watching videos, nodding along, telling himself, this makes sense, but doing nothing. This is where the game ends. This is where you decide whether you'll keep being the useful man or the desired man, the one who waits or the one who leads. There's no more room, no more excuses, only action or resignation. And the woman you're with now, or the next one that comes into your life, is going to know exactly who you are. Because they don't listen to your words, they listen to your energy. And if your energy doesn't change, nothing will change. Not now, not ever. If you've made it this far, you're not just another passive viewer. You're a man who, even when it hurts, chooses truth over comfort. Because what I told you today wasn't easy to hear. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't politically correct. But it was real. And now you have a choice to make. Keep being the man who waits, or become the man who provokes. You don't need permission to change. You just need courage. And courage isn't measured in words. It's measured in actions. No one's going to hand it to you. You have to pull it out of yourself. Only you. I see your strength for making it to the end. Most stop halfway, not you. You chose to face the truths no one else dares to tell you. That's why I want you to comment down below with one phrase, I am wisdom and power. And tell me which country you're watching from, because it doesn't matter if you're in the US, Canada, the UK, Australia. Desire, respect, and masculine dignity speak a universal language. I'm Celia, psychologist, therapist, woman, and the voice you'll never hear in a magazine or on a trendy podcast. This channel, House of Wisdom, doesn't exist to comfort you. It exists to shake you, to return the power you gave away, to remind you that a real man doesn't beg. He inspires. He doesn't plead. He provokes. He doesn't wait. He decides. Subscribe now if you felt this touched a wound no one else knew how to name. Be part of this community of men who are waking up, who are no longer being manipulated by sweet words or guilt-driven speeches. And if you know someone living through the same frustration, share this with them, because this video might be what wakes them up or what saves them. And don't leave just yet. Watch the 2 videos that are about to pop up on screen. Choose the one that makes you the most uncomfortable. Because right there, in what you don't want to face, is exactly what you most need to hear. We're not here to stay comfortable. We're here to transform, one by one. No excuses, no masks, just truth, straight on.